an eye on the infrastructure here as well. So we are going to start with the topic of video games. The pros are going to introduce their side first. Please give them a warm welcome.
Good morning. My name is Joseph Flynn. I'm Tristan Mazaranic. And we're presenting on the pros of video games. Close your eyes for a minute. Think of your own childhood. What was your favorite video game? Was it Tetris, Pac-Man, or were you lucky enough to have Centipede? Now open your eyes. How many of you thought of a video game that could help you get in shape or learn? The first video game was created by physicist William Higginbotham in 1958. It was a simple video game, having people hit a ball between two paddles, a predecessor to Pong by Atari. Since that day, the popularity of video games has grown exponentially. Video game producers and users put video games to many different uses. Schools use video games to teach children basic skills, like the alphabet and numbers. Companies use video games to improve teamwork. Did you know that parents of some children with ADHD or autism use video games to keep their child engaged while learning? We look forward to sharing with you how video games can improve this recreation center.
How we approach a technology that we know negatively impacts the human mind but is nowhere been researched enough. It began with a simple tennis game in an old computer and since it's advanced into addictive games on our phones, computers, and gaming systems. And as the school program is considering whether or not to implement video games in their program, this must not be an option. A video game has some pros, such as enhancement and skills you wouldn't be able to use previously. However, it has a plethora of negative impacts, such as negative correlation with health and behavior, addiction, violence, and academics. Educational video games. One major benefit of video games on children's development, the effects they have on children. Oh my gosh. One major benefit of video games on children's development, although often overlooked, is the effect that technology has on players' education. Educational video games like Scribblenauts and Leapfrog Booster often provide an enjoyable learning environment which motivates children to learn more than a stereotypical learning environment such as a classroom. According to many sources, including the American Psychological because video games require active participation by players, most of the mechanics support the next skills. Games involving violence, racing, and other forms of action improve strategy and anticipation and quick thinking. Games with finance help with management of resources and calculation. Games with multiple levels often require players to use skills required for previous levels, which can enhance memory. So, video games can largely improve players' education by creating a fun learning environment and providing players with different skills.
Video games can lead to violent behavior and mass shootings. Ever since video games have been created, there have been cases of mass shootings closely associated with video games. This pictures of the flow of tributes following one of these mass shootings caused by Anders Breivik, who claims video games assisted him in killing 77 people. After 40 years of research regarding violent video games, Craig Anderson, an expert in psychology, states, high levels of violent video game exposure can be linked to delinquency, fighting at school, and violent criminal behavior. According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, exposure to violence in video games may over time lead to violence in real life. Therefore, according to Craig Anderson's study in the American Academy of Pediatrics, violence in video games influence people to become more violent in everyday life. For these reasons, video games should not be allowed in the recreation center's after-school program because they have a negative impact of violent behavior and mass shootings.
Another benefit of video games is that they can improve your mental health in the aspects of memory, moral codes, cognitive function, and teamwork and cooperation. In memory, you may have to remember a sequence of codes or remember that you have to push a block on a button to continue on a board in the game. In cognitive function, you have to remember what people said, so you can make sure you're informed and you know the correct decision. In moral codes, there may be a person down on the floor or someone running from the police athletes, and it's your choice to choose what you do, which can lead you down a good path or a bad path. And in teamwork and cooperation, you may have a game where you have to work with a team, work with others, you just work with anyone out in the world, control a point, keep from others, or just to change the flag, bring it back to your base.
As children's minds grow, general health becomes very important. Children like to eat a lot. 1 in 7 children today in the U.S. are overweight. This is because they eat empty calories and sit in front of the screen. Over 45% of children ages 12 to 17 spend more than 2 hours a day in front of a TV screen. This causes many issues. Video games often lead to desensitizing children and help them confuse reality and fantasy. As mental health decreases, issues such as depression, anxiety, and social phobias increase. When somebody drops their student off at an after-school community center, they expect skills to sharpen and academics to increase. Video games do neither. They in fact hurt your general health.
Another benefit of video games is that they can increase your physical health. Some game consoles have come out with fitness games and additions to their base consoles. When the Wii came out in 2007, it had 2 games, Wii Sports and Wii Fit. 2 studies done by the American Center for Exercise in 2008 and 2009 showed that of the 2 games, Wii Sports had the most similar calorie burn per hour between video game and real life. The lower intensity games of Wii Sports, bowling and golf, had a similar calorie burn per hour between real life activity and video game, while the higher intensity sports, boxing and tennis, had a larger discrepancy of calorie burn per hour between video game and real life. In Wii Box, we burn 7 calories per hour, while in real life sparring, we burn 10. In 2010, Xbox came out with the Xbox Kinect. The Xbox Kinect uses active motion to have the player and their controller move the avatar around the screen to complete objectives in the game. These types of games, paired with regular physical activity, can help a person get and stay fit while having fun.
Usage of video games have become a distraction to children by occupying themselves with something that will keep them off task from their schoolwork. Low academic achievement has been negatively related to overall time spent playing video games that could be spent doing schoolwork or studying. Look, it has been found that children who regularly play video games are at a slightly increased risk of developing attention problems in school. A new study by a team of Michigan State University scholars found a strong relationship between video games and lower test scores. They did a study on 20 different middle schools and an after-school program in Michigan where they measured the children's grades, visual spatial skills, and performance on standardized tests in math and reading. They asked children how often they use cell phones and how often they play video games, both online and offline. This study found that playing video games led to lower test scores and decreased alertness in class. Furthermore, video games are distracting from what should be a higher priority, school.
Another way video games can be beneficial in mental health is by improving dyslexia and diagnosing autistic disabilities. According to American Psychological Association, children with dyslexia their skills will improve when playing video games that focuses on memorizing words, numbers, and orders. After getting each right, the game will get harder and faster. Also, video games can help in diagnosing autistic disabilities. A study done by Dr. Lesner containing 200 participants, 100 with autism and 100 without autism. These results show that boys with autism will spend roughly 2.4 hours playing video games, and autistic girls will play roughly 1.8 hours per day. This compares to his other results with developing boys who will play 1.6 hours and girls who will play less than half an hour per day. Now, although video games will always improve autistic disabilities, it will also show the severity of it. And this is very beneficial to the dyslexic and autistic population, especially in public schools today.
I'm going to give my argument on addiction with a statistic. According to Iowa State University, 1 out of every 10 children exposed to video games have an addiction. They develop an addiction that can be related to drug abuse. Furthermore, of all the youth in America, 8.5 of them have an addiction. An addiction is seen to hurt 3 ways in people's lives: academic, social, and occupational, which video games very negatively impacts all of these things. When video game addiction is 4 times more popular than redheads across the world, that we can't. When we're doing this in a program, we're opening up these children to addiction, and this cannot be possible.
All in all, video games can improve your social health, your mental health, your physical health, and education, while all having a fun and enjoyable time. As seen by many studies, one done by Ultraclass, it can completely increase your mental health by at least 25% or more.
Although spending a lot of time on video games can have negative effects on children, a limited amount of time can greatly improve one. Also, games with mature and adults-only ratings. Therefore, it is recommended that video games are provided in a recreational after-school program. The playing time and gaming on their
Unfortunately, children are attracted to harmful video games that harm their health, their bodies, and their minds. Children is a study in Singapore, over 3,000 children in secondary and primary school shows that the ones that were gamers showed early signs of depression, social anxiety, and social phobias. It also led to lower scores in academics. This is because these children have been exposed to mature and violent games too early in their life. Therefore, because of violence, general health, academics, and addiction, video games should not be included in this community.
Maybe some questions here. Teachers, any questions for either side?
I just want to know people's real quick, just your personal opinion, like somebody who decides, what do you think about video games? What do you think really they should be in a recreational center or not? What do you think? Just real quick.
I mean, they should be in recreational centers since not most, some games are educational and improve their mental health, social health, physical education overall, but they should always be monitored, make sure the genre is not inappropriate for their age or their area on academics.
I unfortunately think that they should not be in this recreational center because children like violent video games. They're more fun to play. It's really hard to get a child to sit down and play something that's educational without the feeling that it's educational. So that it just doesn't make much sense.
Nobody switched sides to them.
Well, I was gonna ask a follow-up question. Did either side, either group or anybody in either group, did you find that, like your previously held opinion, whatever opinion you had before this project, was influenced by the research that you did?
Yes, I think I used to be more against video games because I thought that they would hold children back from developing, but now I realize how much they can actually help.
Okay.
Unfortunately, no. I have never played video games in my life. I'm outdoors kind of girl, so it hasn't swayed my opinion.
So your research is sort of reinforced that belief as well. Okay, very good. Nicely done.